To kick off episode number 2, we're going to look at all of the transfers that happened in Season 2, kicking off with the players that have left the club. Now, at the end of the first episode, you might have seen that I was talking about following Balogun, about the way he was moaning and edging for a move away from the club, and that's exactly what happened. He, at the end of the season, put in a transfer request. We kind of had to shop him about a bit. There wasn't too much interest, but finally Norwich came in with a sensible offer of around £27 million, and off he went to England. The next player to leave was Guillermo Maripan. Now again, he's a player who was in my original back three for this season, but Al Riyadh come in with a bid. We decided to take that. They offered around £12.5 million for him. The next player to leave was Breel Mbolo, another one that I was talking about that really was injured and then couldn't get into the team. There was a bid from the Middle East that came in of £35 million, and when you saw the finances and how they looked at the end of season 1, we were always going to take that deal. And the final player to leave was Philip Cohn, so there's going to be a lot of changes at the back. Our number 1 goalkeeper departs to go to Linz, so it meant that we had amassed quite a transfer kitty. I think we were up to about £80 million at one point, and we started to put that back into the playing squad. One of the big weaknesses from the previous season was that we didn't have enough squad depth, so we tried to address that quickly. The first player that I brought in was Armin Gigovic. He is a Swedish player who has come from Midtjylland. We only paid around £9 million for him, so it seems a bit of a bargain. Not 100% sure he'll be a true first teamer, but he's definitely one as a rotation option. The next player to come in definitely will be a first teamer. It's Mr. Rooney Bargy. We paid sensible amounts of money for him. It was only about £12 to £15 million, and when you look at his value now, it was a very sensible option to take up. He's a player who develops into one of the best wonder kids in the game and has really been a player that caught my attention since the previous FM. The next player is Alexander Schlager. So with our number 1 goalkeeper departing, we needed another number 1 goalkeeper, and we actually went to Austria, which is strange because that's where Cohn went. We went to Red Bull Salzburg and we picked up Alexander Schlager. The next player to come in was Jesus Vallejo. He is a defender who is solid and reliable, former Real Madrid player. It says he's a regular starter in his prime years, so at the age of 28, he's that experienced head in and amongst the younger players that will be coming into the club in that position. We then signed Kenneth Schmidt. He is one of those younger players who plays in that position. He has come to us from Freiburg. He was actually quite a cheap option. I think we only paid about £2.5 million for him, and I think he's very much one who will develop in the future. We then signed John Karikaburu, so we were a little bit light up front, having lost Mbolo and Balogun, so we went and signed some strikers, the first of which was Karikaburu. He has been a player who has been a wonder kid in previous football managers, and we decided to take a relatively cheap punt on him, around £4 million. It really wasn't a lot of money. We then signed Robert Bozanic. He's a player who cost around £8.5 to £9 million, I think. Came from Boavista, had previously played for Feyenoord, 25 years old, stands at 6'2", finishing at 16, pace of only 12 and acceleration of 12. Hopefully he can score some goals whilst playing up front at the club. And the final player to come in the second season is Anthony Rouault. He's a player who comes to us from Stuttgart, a French 23-year-old central defender who I think is still going to improve. He looks the part already, valued now at £24 to £26 million, and seems to be an absolute steal. So those are the players that have left, the players that have arrived. The question is, what impact do they have? Can we get any closer to PSG in Season 2? Let's have a look at some competitions. To kick off the roundup of competitions in Season 2, we're going to start off with the Coupe de France. We always enter this competition in the 9th round, and this time we were paired off against Ajaccio. We would beat them 4-1. In the 10th round, we would play against Troyes, where we had a disappointing 0-0 draw, but we would go through winning on penalties. In the 11th round, we would be drawn against one of our fierce rivals, Nice. We would beat them 2-1, and that would put us through to the quarter-finals, where we would play against Strasbourg. Unfortunately, another game where we would struggle, only drawing 1-1 in the match, but unfortunately, we would go out on penalties. In season number 2, we would play in the Champions League for the first time, and the Champions League is now all changed. Gone is the group stages. in is the league phases, and unfortunately the league phase would be as far as we would go in the competition. We didn't play particularly well and seemed a little bit out of our depth, but we did play 8 times. We would win 2 games against Rapid and Limassol. We would draw twice against Real Madrid in a 1-1 draw and Partizan Belgrade, but we would lose 4 times to Leipzig, Manchester United, Ajax and Celtic. We'd finish on a goal difference of 2 and we would finish on 8 points. So that just leaves us with the league to look at, and as you can see, we have had another really good season in Ligue 1. We have managed to finish in 2nd place, albeit 17 points behind Paris Saint-Germain. We have closed the gap a little bit. It's only by 5 points, but it is progress going forwards. Looking at our season then, we played in 34 games. We would win 25 of them. We would draw in 5 games. We would lose 4 times. We'd have a goal difference of 47 and finish on 80 points. So in fairness to us, we have finished 11 points ahead of Marseille and 12 points ahead of Lens, but we do finish 17 points behind PSG, and PSG were in their imperious best, winning 32, drawing 1 and only losing 1 game in the league. But it's another season qualified for the Champions League, and another season with the kind of money hopefully coming into the club that will allow us to build a squad for the Champions League. Looking at some of the player stats then, Rooney Bargi was our top goal scorer with 21 goals. He was also our top average rated player with 7.63 and 3 from 3. Rooney Bargi was our leading assister with 15 assists. He also got 7 Player of the Match awards. Golovin got 5, and Wilfried Singo did manage to get himself 10 yellow cards. So a fantastic season. Despite that gap at the top being so big, it is starting to come down. We are chipping away at it. Hopefully in season 3 we will go even closer to running PSG to the line. So a roundup of the competition sees us finishing 2nd and qualify for the Champions League. We were knocked out sadly in the group phase, or league phase as it is now, in the Champions League, and then in the Coupe de France we'd get through to the quarter-finals where we'd lose against Strasbourg. A quick look at the finances will reveal that we are in pretty much the same situation that we were at the end of Season 1. Going into Season 3, we will have a negative balance of £5.5 million. But they do still give us an £8.4 million transfer budget. Now, obviously, as you can see by the dips and the peaks here, we were raising cash as we were going through, but then we were losing as we were going throughout the season. We have a wage budget of £990,000 and we are spending £914. So once again, it's a question of what do we do with this overall balance and this transfer budget. Certainly in how we're going to strengthen the squad, those 2 numbers will play a big part. In terms of the club vision then, actionable objectives from the board: work within the wage budget, we are on course. Sign players to sell for a profit, they're reserving judgment. Their maximum contracts for 32s and 30s, 4-year contracts for first team players. By the end of next season, they want to be more competitive in the Champions League and qualify for the Champions League as a minimum. Looking at the board, we only get a C+ for this season. Our job security is also stable. The reasons for that: strive to make progress on and off the pitch is the culture. They were pleased with the 3-0 victory against Marseille, the 1-0 victory against Lyon, and they're pleased with the positive atmosphere in the changing room. However, they are disappointed that we lost to Lorient. If we look at the supporters, we get a B- there, so a little bit better from them. They still want to play or develop players using the club's youth system, finish above Nice in the league, and finish above Marseille in the league also. They are pleased with the 3-0 victory, 4-1 victory and the 1-0 victory, but they are disappointed about Kenneth Schmidt's recent performances and the 1-0 defeat against Lorient. So all in all, it's pretty decent. I'm not too sure why our job security is only stable. Yeah, it's a little bit shocking considering we have pretty much outperformed what they wanted. We have finished 2nd in the league this season. We have closed the gap to PSG slightly, but we've also increased the gap behind us. So the feedback is a little bit harsh from the board, but we'll take the B- as we go into Season 3. To round off season 2, we're going to look at the first team and more specifically the starting 11. So I'm going to do this in 2 ways. The first way, I will look at what I think is my best starting 11, and then we will also have a look at what the assistant thinks is the best 11, and we'll try and look at any gaps in his report to see where we might need to strengthen in season number 3. So my first 11 would be Schlager in goal, Kao Enrique, Salisu, Ruel and Singo, Isugo, Golovin and Kamara in the middle, with Minamino wide left, Bargy wide right and Bosnik up top. Now the first thing you're going to notice is that the dodgy 3-4-2-1 system thing has gone. We have gone back to trusty reliable 4-3-3. Certainly I think in Ligue 1 for this team it's far more suited to have a bit more stability in the middle of the park. That kind of back 3 just was conceding goals left, right and centre, and I think that this 4-3-3 stabilises that a bit more. So if we go through and look at some of the players then, Bosnik up top, as I said, he did come as a little bit of a bargain, £7.75 million for him, but he played 32 times, scoring 16 and had 6 assists, 36 games, 20 goals across the season. If we have a little look at Rooney Bargy, as I said, we got him, he's won for £12 million, 30 appearances, 21 goals, 15 assists, 7 Player of the Match awards, 42 and 23 goals across the season. He's one of those wonder kids that you just have to go and buy. Certainly on this game, FM23, he was a good wonder kid. In FM24, he looks like he is an elite wonder kid. In the rest of the positions, so still Minamino wide left, Golovin, Kamara, Isugo, as I said, he's still developing as a footballer, and he's one of those players that will develop as the save goes on. Then Henrique, Salisu, Ruel and Singo. Let's have a little look at Ruel. So he's come in and he has played some really good first team football in his first season at the club. £8.5 million for him, 27 appearances with 3 goals. Not really important goals for a defender, but the 7.1 average rating that he received across the season is just that. If we go into the squad planner then and look at the best 11 from the assistant manager, who is still Mr. Jaap Stam, he would go with Schlager, Enrique, Vallejo, Roel and Singo. So I think only one change there, which is Vallejo. I don't think he was in my best 11. Then we got Fofana, Isugo and Gigovic. Gigovic is an interesting one because we bought him as a rotation piece. He hasn't even really made that. He's now started making waves about wanting new contracts and all sorts. So he in the moment is in the cold for me, but obviously Jaap Stam thinks that's where he should be. Then we've got Minamino wide left, Bargy wide right and Bosnik up top. So we've got Rago, Souza, Efekele as the 3 purple players there. Strange to see that with that midfield 3 there, it's Diop, Buabre, Silvente, and then we've got Elliot Ober is a player that I actually need to show you because in Football Manager 2024, I've seen this quite a lot. This was just a random 15-year-old wonder kid who was recommended on a scouting report, wasn't through a youth intake or anything. He's absolutely fantastic. He's going to develop into such a wonderful footballer, and we didn't have to pay a single penny for him. If we go back then and have a little look at that report just to see the strengths and weaknesses. So top goal scorer was Rooney Bargy, best player was Rooney Bargy. Youth prospects list has shortened, but there are still a number at the club. Handling, command of area, anticipation, concentration and goalkeeper depth are positives. In terms of the weaknesses, it's still overall depth. So even though we are raising money through transfers and spending money, they still want us to go out and spend more money and buy more players because it seems that we do not have the depth at the club. Penalty taking, communication, dribbling, heading, off the ball, one-on-ones, flair, corners and work rate. So maybe we need a bit more attacking flair. Communication between goalkeepers isn't very good, so I don't know whether that's on Schlager or if it's on the group as a whole. Penalty taking being a weakness is obviously strange considering we have 2 strikers now who should be good at penalties. So that is going to round off season number 2. We have qualified for the Champions League, close that gap to PSG. It's down to 17. That may seem quite laughable, but it's a big step forward when you don't have the money that PSG have got to just keep whacking player after player after player into your squad. Knocked out in the league phase of the Champions League, so one to improve on for the next season, and then the quarterfinals of the Coupe de France. Right then, if you're still with me at this point of the video, firstly, a big thank you. Secondly, if you could hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, I really would appreciate it. Before you go, don't forget to check out the rest of the channel. There are other videos such as hints, tips, tutorials, Wonder Kids, Let's Plays, a little bit of something for everybody on the channel. But for this one, I'm going to leave it there. Big thank you for watching. Hopefully I'll see you on the next episode of the Monaco Save.